Bam! Welcome to our comic book style breakdown of cinema's absolute most famous spaceship. Today, we're diving straight into the mechanics, the history, and the legendary feats of a true pop culture icon. In this explainer, we're going to treat the Millennium Falcon exactly like the superhero it is. We're going to lift the hood, examine its insane modifications, from its blistering speed to its heavy weaponry, and trace the totally chaotic history of the captains who sat in its cockpit. So let's jump right in. You know, this iconic splash page quote perfectly captures the dual identity of our mechanical hero. Lando Calrissian called her the fastest hunk of junk in the galaxy. And honestly, that's exactly what makes the Falcon so incredibly compelling. It's got this rusty, battered, totally unassuming exterior, but it's hiding state-of-the-art, heavily modified superpowers underneath. It is the ultimate underdog disguise. So the big question we have to ask ourselves is, how exactly did a completely standard, run-of-the-mill Corellian YT-1300 light freighter become the galaxy's ultimate savior? Well, let's turn the page and uncover the incredible modifications, the secret compartments, and even the notoriously slow kryptonite that define this vessel. We're going to look at exactly how this simple cargo ship was transformed into an absolute legend.
Which brings us to our first chapter, a ship of rogues.
Look, every hero needs an origin story, right? And for the Falcon, that story involves a seriously chaotic, high-stakes chain of custody that spans decades of galactic history. It is wild how many hands this ship actually passed through. We start 10 years prior with Lando Calrissian, who made some major early modifications. But then, in this legendary twist of fate, Han Solo wins the ship from Lando in a high-stakes game of sabacc. Han and his co-pilot Chewbacca obviously became its most famous captains, but jump forward about 30 years and man, the ship's history starts reading like a rap sheet. It gets stolen by Guinness Duquesne, then snatched by the Irving boys, and eventually winds up just rusting under a tarp owned by the scavenger Unkar on the planet Jakku. Finally, Rey and Chewbacca took the helm 18 hours later to fly to Crate, returning the ship to its heroic glory.
All right, moving on to Section 2, Secret Stashes and Survival.
Every masked vigilante needs a bat cave, yeah? Well, for the Falcon, that meant hiding right under the villain's nose using undetectable, scan-proof, subfloor smuggling compartments. Originally, Han and Chewie used these just to move illicit cargo right past the authorities, but these compartments kind of became the ship's secret identity. I mean, they famously saved Princess Leia, Luke Skywalker, and Obi-Wan Kenobi from being captured by Imperial stormtroopers when the ship got dragged into the Death Star. They are quite literally built for survival during the harshest crackdowns. Pow! Combine that incredible stealth with a remarkably robust life support system. This modified freighter can actually keep its crew alive autonomously for at least 7 full days. When you're out there dodging Imperial Star Destroyers or, hiding out inside a giant space slug in an asteroid field, having a solid week's worth of reliable life support makes this the absolute ultimate survival vehicle. Now, let's get to the fun stuff in Section 3, Superpowers under the hood. Let's lift that hood and look at the heavy-hitting superpowers that transform this roughly 35-meter freighter into a literal war machine. Just check out this loadout. It is pure action panel material. The Falcon isn't just fast, it packs a massive punch. We're talking dual quad laser turrets on the top and bottom, a concealed anti-infantry laser cannon that drops right out of the hull, and high-impact concussion missiles. And to take the hits, it's heavily guarded by upgraded, military-grade deflector shields. It's a freighter that can confidently go toe-to-toe with dedicated military fighters. But here's what's truly astonishing about all this. Despite having all these incredibly complex, heavy-duty weapon and shield systems, the Falcon was modified so extensively that the minimum crew required to fly this beast is exactly 1. Yeah, just 1 person can get this ship off the ground and fighting. It is a massive testament to the incredible, if maybe a little chaotic, engineering poured into its systems over the years. And hey, it's not just brawn. The Falcon has serious brains too. It features a heavily upgraded, custom navicomputer. In a galaxy where calculating a hyperspace jump can literally mean the difference between escaping or flying right into a star, the Falcon's navicomputer does the complex math faster than you can flip a comic page. This precise, rapid navigation is exactly what allows the ship to make those daring, split-second jumps to light speed. But it's not all perfect, which leads us to Section 4, the dreaded backup hyperdrive. Because look, even Superman has his kryptonite, right? And for the Millennium Falcon, its biggest flaw is practically guaranteed to raise the dramatic stakes. On one hand, you've got the primary hyperdrive, the system that gives the Falcon its title as the fastest ship in the galaxy. It was heavily modified by Han, and later Unkar even slapped a compressor on it. But
When that incredibly temperamental primary drive fails, you're stuck with the backup hyperdrive. And the reality is, this backup is agonizingly slow. We are talking days or even weeks just to travel between star systems. So when the main drive inevitably breaks down, usually right when the dramatic tension is at its absolute highest, our heroes are left completely stranded, just crawling through space.
Which sets the stage perfectly for Section 5, Epic Boss Battles. You really can't be a superhero without epic crossover events, and the Falcon's combat history is legendary. Think about these sequential boss kills. First, at the Battle of Yavin, the Falcon swoops in out of nowhere to knock Darth Vader's advanced TIE fighter off course, which gives Luke the opening to destroy the first Death Star. Years later, at the Battle of Endor, Lando flies the ship directly inside the narrow, ridiculously dangerous superstructure of the second Death Star to blow up its core. Decades after that, Han Solo uses the Falcon to literally bypass Starkiller Base's planetary shields by exiting hyperspace right inside the planet's atmosphere. Insane! And finally, at the Battle of Crate, Rey and Chewie use it to completely wipe out the First Order's aviation, drawing their fire so the Resistance could escape. Time and time again, the Falcon delivers that final knockout punch.
But these victories always come at a heavy cost. Just look at the damage report. At Endor, Lando managed to escape the exploding Death Star, but they knocked off the Falcon's iconic circular sensor dish on the way out. At Starkiller Base, the tactical victory was totally overshadowed by the absolute tragedy of Han Solo's death. And during the intense dogfights over Crate, Rey and Chewbacca pushed the ship so hard they suffered critical damage to the ventral turret. Every single victory leaves a scar, both on the ship and on its crew. And that brings us to the end of our breakdown. Behind every single dent, scorch mark, and replaced sensor dish on this ship is a legendary story. It leaves us with one thrilling question to end on. Considering absolutely everything it has been through, what impossible odds will this heroic, fastest hunk of junk in the galaxy conquer in its next epic issue? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep your eyes on the stars.